This right here is one of our popular visual when it comes to explaining HSA. It's a two-pager. So let me go over how I use it to explain it to clients when it comes to a health savings account. And this is the tax guide. And this is really just to go over what is an HSA and why is it beneficial for the client to have. Pretty much the main thing you want to make sure that the client has is a high deductible health plan. And the only way to qualify for an HSA is to have a high deductible health plan. If they do not have this, then they cannot do an HSA. So that's the first question I always ask clients. Do you have a high deductible health plan? Now, let's talk about why. Why is it so important for clients to know about this HSA? And that's the main thing is a trifecta tax benefit. It is the only account that allows people to put money in and get all three different type of tax savings. And what I do is I use the example of comparing it to a traditional IRA, Roth IRA, and then how the HSA works compared to them. So let's go through the when it comes to getting a trifecta tax benefit. There's three stages. There's a tax deduction when you put the money in. There's tax-free growth, meaning that as the money stays in there, the account grows year after year, and every year, as long as it grows, it is not subject to any taxes when it grows. And then when you take the money out, it is not taxable. No matter how much is inside the account, how much it grew over the years, none of it will be taxable. So let's go through the first example of a traditional IRA. For a traditional IRA, when you put the money in, you get a tax deduction. So that's a good thing. And then when you leave the money in there, as long as and it continues to grow, none of that will be taxable over the years as it's growing. However, when you take that money out, let's just say the account grew to $1 million and you want to take that money out, well, the money you take out will be taxable. So this is bad. It is not tax-free withdrawals. So that's why it's an X, but pretty much letting clients know that you have to pay taxes when you take the money out for traditional IRA. Now let's talk about a Roth IRA. For a Roth IRA, this right here is kind of the bad part where the money that you put in, you get no tax benefit whatsoever when you put money inside a Roth IRA. However, the money that is inside a Roth IRA after you put it in, as it continues to grow year after year, none of that will be taxable because it's tax-free growth. And the big benefit here is that for Roth IRAs, when you take the money out, no matter how much it increases by, so even if it's up to $1 million, none of that is going to be taxable. So that's a big benefit when it comes to a Roth. You don't get a tax benefit when you put the money in, but when you take the money out, none of it is taxable. Now let's go through the HSA of why this actually has all three tax benefit. When you put the money in, it is a tax deduction. The client will get a tax deduction when you put that money in. And depending on how much you put in, it could save around 25 to 30% of taxes easily. And just like all the other accounts, it is an investment account. So you can't put money into it and have it invest in mutual funds or ETFs. And for that account, as it grows, it's not taxable whatsoever. And here is the third benefit is that when you take the money out, no matter how much it has grown by, no matter how much is in there, as long as you use it for medical expenses, it will be tax free. So this fits all three buckets in the trifecta tax benefit. And know that this is the only account that offers this trifecta benefit. All other various accounts, there's always some kind of some kind of taxable event somewhere, whether it's at the beginning or at the end or even in the middle. While for HSA, all three stages are going to have a tax benefit. And the next thing I want to talk about to clients is that there's long-term investment potential. Remember, an HSA can be an investment vehicle. You can invest in stocks, in mutual funds. So we want to make sure that, hey, over the years, over the next 20, 30 years, as we put money into an HSA, that has growth potential, and we're going to want to make sure that we grow as much as possible inside this account. So the longer you invest, the more you put in, higher potential of this account growing, and no matter how much it grows to, none of it will be taxable as long as we use it for medical expenses. And I always tell clients that by the time you retire, when you get older, chances are you're going to be paying medical expenses one way or another. So it's good to have this account open where we could continuously put more money into it and depend on it later on in the future. Sometimes I actually even go as far as telling clients that, hey, even maybe if you're young and you have some small medical expenses that you could use the HSA to pay for, I would say don't pay that out of your own pocket, because we want the most amount of money inside this account. We want so much money inside this account that it's going to grow so much, and we know we're going to use it in the future for medical costs. It's going to be really expensive in the future with medical of how it's going. The next thing I want to talk about is flexibility and portability. This is such a great thing because unlike an FSA that employers provide, FSA is a use it or lose it type of program. So you have to spend most of it by the end of the year. But with an HSA, if you don't spend any of it, it still carries forward and you don't have to use it. You could just keep it carrying forward and keep on growing this account. And also portability is important, because if you were to say move employers or move HSA banks for some reason, that goes with you. You own it. This is yours to keep. While an FSA account, you could actually lose out on that money. So that's why an HSA is way better than an FSA. The next one I want to talk about is, hey, this could actually be another retirement savings account that the client could use. So after the age of 65, you could use the HSA for any purpose without penalties, but you have to be over the age of 65. And if it's non-medical, you just pay taxes on it. That's all. But if it's medical, then you don't pay any taxes on it. So it's still a good benefit to have in retirement. So in retirement, let's just say you wanted to take the money out for some reason, and it's not for medical, it's to buy a car or do something else. You could take it out, you just have to pay income taxes on it. The only way to make it 100% not taxable is if you use it for medical. So this page explains what an HSA is and why the client should do it. Now, the second page right here, this is the most important page. This is the page where we get actions to be done, because we could tell the clients everything about an HSA here, but if they don't take any actions on it, like open up the account, then they don't get the benefit. So we want to make sure that clients understand the how-to guide. We want to make sure that they know exactly what they need to do to get this HSA account open and so they could contribute to it. And the first question, like I said earlier, do you have a high deductible health insurance plan? If it's a no, then they cannot put into it HSA. We cannot do anything. So unfortunately, there's nothing we could do. But hopefully it's a yes. Now the next question is, does your employer offer it? And it's important to see if the employer offers it, because sometimes there are some employers that has a benefit where they will put money inside the HSA for the client. So if that's the case, if we could see that the employer is actually offering this benefit and putting money into the account to the client, that's free money. We want to make sure that client takes as much free money as possible. So even if the employer is only putting $1,000 or $2,000, try to make sure we're maxing that out as much as possible. We want to max out that benefit and get that free money. And for any amounts that the employer doesn't cover, we want to make sure we self-fund the rest. We want to try to max it out as much as possible. So if the employer is only covering $1,000 and we could put in an extra $6,000 into the plan, then we want to make sure we self-fund that $6,000. The next step is to set up an account through the employer. So make sure that you know exactly where to put that money in if you need to, where the account sits for the HSA. Then the next one is we gotta know the maximum contribution, because there's a difference between single and family coverage. For single, it's a lower contribution amount, and for family, it's definitely a higher contribution amount. So we wanna make sure that we have the right contribution maximum that the client is allowed to take. And the first step, make contributions through the employer payroll. So if the employer offers it, sometimes through payroll, you could just make an automatic deduction and it'll just go to the HSA account automatically. And one important thing, if the client doesn't max the contribution out by December 31st, it's okay. We actually still have till April 15th to make the remainder payment. So April 15th of the following year to still contribute to an HSA. So we have time to make sure that we're maxing out this HSA contribution. Now, this example right here is if the employer offers it. Most of the time, the employer probably won't offer it. So this is where the client is going to have to open up their own account. So they're going to have to set up their own HSA account through a brokerage or a bank. A popular one is called HSA Bank that they could go online and sign up for. The second step is know the contribution amount. So they have to know, okay, if they have single coverage, then there's a certain contribution amount that they could take, but they have a family coverage, they could put in more. So we want to make sure what is the max that they could put in, so they know of how much they could afford and put in. And if they could put in the max, then great. That's the perfect way to do it. And we got to make sure that the contributions made by April 15th of the following year to qualify for the deduction. And I always emphasize that HSA is the only plan that offers a trifecta of tax benefit, like I explained over here on page 1. This is the trifecta tax benefit. Make sure clients understand that fully. And the most important, not the most important part, but very important, is that we do it again next year. We want to continuously do it year after year after year for as long as possible, because we want this account to have as much money in there and to grow as long as possible. And this little tidbit down here is what I usually explain to clients is that, hey, if you do have money in there and you do have some medical expenses that are kind of low, you could use the HSA account to pay for it and it will be tax-free. But I would suggest that the client just pay that cost out of their own pocket, leave the HSA alone, because we want more money to sit inside the account, especially if they're investing it, so it could grow higher. We want more money to grow higher every single year, and we want as much money in the HSA account as possible, because we know in the future they're going to pay medical expenses. They're going to pay all these medical expenses as they get older. So let's make sure we have as much money possible inside the HSA account. And if you like this visual and you want a copy of this guide emailed to you, I have a link somewhere in the description. Just look for that and click on it, and this will be sent to you for free.